Coming to you today here from the guest suite of Truth Tabernacle in our Community Impact Center, and going to be going over what we've been discussing the last couple of weeks in our Wednesday night Bible studies. I've been talking to you about the fact of breaking out of the crowd and how that oftentimes in life we find ourselves kind of going through life and we have dreams and plans of where we wanted to wind up, and we find ourselves kind of actually in a rut where we feel like we're conforming to everybody else, and our desires kind of break out of the crowd. And a lot of times the temptation is to do something drastic or irresponsible in order to kind of have a freshness to life. And I've been talking to you and teaching on the fact that the way that we break out of the crowd, the way to get out of conformity, is not to bail out on responsibility and run away from responsibility, but it's by transforming ourselves by the renewing of our minds. And so oftentimes we think that the way to change things is to make new decisions so that we can have new results. But the fact of the matter is that if we want different results, it doesn't just come from different decisions, it comes from changing our belief system, because all of our decisions feed from our belief systems. The way we believe about marriage impacts our decisions. The way we believe about relationships and why they're important, that's why we make the decisions we make. The way we believe about sex and the role of sex in a relationship, it fuels our decisions in the way we go about relationships. And so I've talked to you about the fact that if we are to have wise decision making and have good results, we've got to make sure our belief system is correct. The first week I talked about the fact that we have got to, one of the key overarching beliefs we have got to adopt is the fact that God knows what's best for us. And if we can really embrace that fact, that God knows what's best for us better than what we know, then we can make better decisions. They won't be decisions that are based upon how we feel or where our heart directs us, but the wise man said we should trust the Lord with all our heart. Regardless of what our heart says, we got to trust God with it. And so, talk to you about that. This week I talked to you about the fact that if we are to understand God's role in our finances and the way we approach our money, we have got to understand that God owns it all. That's the overarching principle we have to understand. God owns everything, and He has made us stewards of it. And when we adopt that mindset that, you know what, God, my money is yours, my resources are yours, and as long as they're yours, that just makes me a manager of them. And when we see ourselves as money managers of God's money, it doesn't make us feel guilty anymore about money and what we do with money. It makes us feel responsible. And so I want to challenge you as a family, as an individual, if you have kids, to sit down and talk about your money and what you do with your money, and remind your kids and remind yourself that just as this guest suite I'm sitting in today, time to time there are people that come and stay here, and for that period of time it's their room, it's their home, it's where they live, and they're managers of it while they're here. But ultimately it doesn't belong to them. They're just stewards of it, and before long they're going to have to surrender it and move on. The same thing is true of us and our money. It doesn't really belong to us. We're just stewards of it. God has given it to us for a while. He may take it away from us. The key thing is, it's not a matter of how much or how little we have. It's what we do with God's resources in order to achieve His goals and His agenda. So I challenge you on Wednesday night to track your spending for the next week. Where's your money going? To what purposes is it going? And if we can believe and understand that this is God's anyway, what we do with it will be a little more responsible, and you'll find in the end you'll actually wind up having more money, because you won't be spending it frivolously on things that are really not important to God or not valuable to your life. And so I challenge you for the next week, track your money, every dollar you spend. At the end of that week, look at where you've spent your money and ask yourself, is this a wise decision of how I should go about using God's resources? If you will adopt that mindset, you can break out of the crowd. You'll wind up more likely out of debt, not conforming to the way of the world, and being transformed by a different way of thinking. This is God's money. I'm just a steward. It's mine for a while. I want to bring honor to Him and achieve His goals. Let's break out of the crowd. Let's not be conformists. Let's be transformed. God bless you. Have a great week. Hope to see you Sunday.